environment that we're trying to create here at FGCU. It ain't perfect, y'all. I know that. Don't ever think that something like this is okay with Florida Gulf Coast University. It's okay with this president. Look, I've seen a lot of stuff in my years. I grew up in a segregated Florida. I've seen variations of this throughout my life. And I have fought, and I will continue to fight, to see that this kind of hate speech is not a part of the educational experience at Florida Gulf Coast University. No, we're not okay with it. When I first saw this, like many people of color and people of goodwill, my heart dropped. Because I remember growing up in this state and how it was. And it's something very special for me as an African American male to be back in this system to make sure we have educational opportunities for all of our students in an environment that's inclusive.
Well said, Mr. President.
Tolerant. We don't aim for tolerance.
That's right.
It is our responsibility to provide a safe place for you to get your education. I am committed to doing that.
That's right, brother.
I will tell y'all, when I saw this deplorable drawing, I talked to the UPD to find out what was going on. They told me what actions were taken. I'm going to tell you. First, a picture was taken, and then we erased the whiteboard. Then we increased patrolling of that area. And we had our UPD, all of them, be sensitive in looking around to see if we see a pattern developing here in that building or otherwise. I will tell you this, and I will own this. I made the decision at that time there was not an imminent threat, and what we should focus on is trying to find who did this. Well, we haven't found out who did it. We don't know if it was a faculty member, a staff member, a student, or someone from off campus. But that's not important to me. What's important to me that it happened in our house. And we don't have room in our house to tolerate it.
What is your name?
My name's Isaiah Suriel.
And what is your background?
Well, I come from somewhat of a poor background. I'm half Dominican and half black. My mother being from the Dominican side and my father from being black.
Do you think that your race affects how you walk around in today's society?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
Well, in today's society nowadays, there's just so much going on in the media especially, where race is becoming the main concern about everything that's happening. This is including riots, police brutality, which is pretty bad, and even in some cases, schools and employment, where if it's seen as a certain, if you're seen as a certain race, be it Hispanic, Black, or Asian, usually you have more of an edge over the other employees that are not minorities.
What do you mean an edge?
Usually, in some companies, they try to meet the status quo because they don't want to seem that they're segregated or discriminating against other possible employees that are not white. So, in the process of trying to reach the status quo, they tend to hire more minorities than whites. Usually, not always the case, but...
Do you think that you're just a status to where you work?
I would hope not, but most likely, when they take up the numbers, that's probably what it comes down to at that point.
And what is the most memorable thing that has happened to you due to your race?
Well, one event that I can recall is one day I was working. I was working at a supermarket, and I was about to help a customer out, and when I offered to take him outside to help him with his groceries to take him to his car, he promptly decided to curse me out in front of my fellow associates. So I just decided to not try to defuse the situation and just walked away and back to the break room. Now, later on, when I asked about that person, I asked like, "Hey, what was up with that guy? Like, is there something wrong? Is there some type of like mental illness where he just blurts out? Um, I shouldn't say hate speech. He was just, it just seems like he was angry." And so, what the associate told me was very interesting. What he had said was, uh, he's a usual customer there, and everyone knows him because of the way he acts, which is out of anger and frustration. And so the way that he described it to me was he would always talk down on certain employees. When he was driving the parking lot, he would always almost hit someone out of anger, and he's always like mouthing someone off. And I asked the associate, well, why is that? And he's like, I don't know, but for some reason he usually does that to Spanish and black people. And I'm like, are you sure it's not a mental thing, or is it just he's still stuck in the past? So that's why I dealt with. Aside from that, there's been a little quips here and there along the rest of my life, but that's the major thing that I still remember to this day.
So, do you feel less safe in this world?
Me personally?
Yeah.
At this very moment, it is hard to answer because in light of recent events, especially with the recent election, there have been more and more protests on both sides. Protests against the presidency and protests, not really protests from supporters, but more of gloating and showing how they've won with the president that they've gotten. Actually, on the news a couple of days ago, there was this guy. He would step out of his car, and any person who was driving past him that was black, he would proceed to threaten them, I should say, right outside their car. He would hold a bat and threaten to hit the car window. And as soon as someone saw that he was being video recorded, he walked away. So nowadays you're seeing more of that, and that is a scary thing to see, because if that happens more and it's not, and no one takes note of it, that's going to be a problem in the near future. And then at that time, probably I would feel like I'm in danger.
Yeah. Well, thank you.